Welcome back to Collaboration Conversations. I'm your co host, Regina Partain Bergman. And as many of you know who watch the show, my co host, Pearl Cox, is unavailable to be with us for a little while. So I have the extreme pleasure of having guest co hosts while Pearl is out. Can't wait for her to get back. And we're going to continue having guest co hosts when she comes back because this is just so much fun and such a great opportunity to get to know people a bit better and have these wonderful conversations about collaboration. So, let me tell you a little bit about my guest this morning. I'm going to let him do most of the talking about him, but I want to tell you just a smidgen. So, my guest is Nick Ricco, and he helps frustrated professionals transition to a business or career that they are passionate about. And I think that's so important. Good morning, Nick. How are you this morning?
Wonderful, Regina. Doing great. How about you?
I am fantastic. And I get to sit here and visit with you for the next 30 minutes to an hour. So it makes me even better. I always tell people I have the best job in the world because I get to spend time with folks like yourself.
Likewise, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So, Nick, let's kick this off by having you tell folks a little bit more about you and maybe a bit about your journey to getting to this place and who you serve and why.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it. Yeah. So my story, probably best to kick off right after college. Graduated college in 2003, and shortly thereafter, I got started within the medical device sector. Was a career that I went to college anticipating I was going to go into. I watched my dad have a long, successful career there, and even though I had an entrepreneurial spirit behind me, I always knew I was going to end up there for some reason. And I did. And when I started there, I got started and had a lot of success with it. Having said that, fast forward to 2012, about 9 years into that career, and that career was very good to me. Had promotions and made more and more money and grew more and more friendships. But in 2012, I found myself in a hospital. My wife had to rush me to emergency room one morning after one of my good friends' weddings. I couldn't breathe. Spent a week in the hospital before I was finally diagnosed with a having suffered a heart attack.
Mm.
My main artery was 90% closed, and I had to have a stent put in. And to give a little more context of that, I went to college to run. I was actually a national champion in the 5K for Division III. 2006, I completed an Ironman to commemorate my father who had passed away a couple of years prior to that. So to end up in the hospital after all of that was earth shattering and really shook my world. And what I realized was that it was a great reminder for me that life was short and you got to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're enjoying the journey. So going back to my college days where I'd mentioned that I had that entrepreneurial spirit and never did anything with it because I had success within the corporate world, I decided to get more serious about my finances. I had invested in a couple of real estate investment properties at that point, and I thought that real estate was a nice opportunity for me to kind of jump in and dip my toe into the entrepreneurial world. And in 2016, I ended up going and getting my real estate license, thinking I was going to start a property management company because I had a couple properties. I enjoyed working in that environment. And as I was sitting in the real estate class that I had to take on late at night because I was still working my corporate medical device job, I started to realize that this was a great opportunity to work with people on the biggest purchase of their lives and help them
Mhm.
and have the ability to make some good money doing that. So fast forward to the summer of 2017, I had my first real estate closing and I fell in love with it. The process, the journey, working with people on that process. And I decided, you know what, this is something I'm really going to work on building. I'm going to have to do it nights and weekends, which is difficult because I did have my corporate job. But I was able to do that, and I grew it after a couple of years to the point where the income was surpassing my 9 to 5 job. And in January of 2021, I decided during a pandemic to just jump and go full force into real estate. I did that. I now manage a Keller Williams office. I run my own real estate business, transaction wise. And this journey I have been on has just shown me that if you focus on a goal, you can accomplish whatever you want. And the other side to that is making sure that you're waking up every single day passionate and happy about what you're doing. That's not to say that you can't have frustration and days where it's difficult, but overall you've got to do something every day that you're passionate about and that you enjoy.
I completely agree with you on that. I think that's so important. And when you take a look at that heart attack that you had, uh, it, I think that when we actually pursue careers that we are passionate about, I think that typically we lengthen our life,
Yes.
and having that purpose is so important. I was having a conversation with someone just the other day, and a memory was stirred of when my father-in-law, when he retired back in like 1970, and other people, and he had a hobby on the side. He was an automatic transmission mechanic on the side. He worked for an oil company, but he on the side he'd done this mechanic work for years, and he was actually known as one of the best, or as the best automatic transmission mechanic in the San Joaquin Valley in California. And he didn't, he just
Yes.
did it in his garage.
Yep. Wow.
But he had purpose, right? And so many of the people that he worked with who retired at about the same time, who had nothing to look forward to, lived very short lives. They didn't last very long after they retired.
Yeah, I think it's such an important piece. And actually, as it relates to my story, I think it's something that people often overlook about my story. And the point of that is by investing in real estate and then starting that real estate business on the side. I had responsibilities at the time, right? I had
Right.
two young kids that were born in 2013, 2015. My wife, God bless her, is a stay-at-home mom, has been since we've had the kids. So I get that side to it where you have to make sure that you're providing. But what I got out of investing in real estate and starting that business and feeding that passion gave me more happiness during my 9 to 5. Right. And I think
Right.
that people think that they have to go and create, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of what I do now is coaching people to get to that point, as you mentioned, to be happy. But
Right.
part of that journey doesn't have to be, I have to go from my 9 to 5, shut that down and go and take a chance on the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial world. It can
Right.
be continuing to do that job, providing for yourself. But if you have something that you can work on the nights and weekends or off hours that feeds your passion, you can have the
Yeah.
best of both worlds, right? You can take care of things
Absolutely.
and then feed that passion. And it doesn't have to replace your
Yeah.
income on day one.
That side hustle. I have
Correct.
a friend, one of my clients is a coach who her niche is side hustlers, people who are side hustlers.
Yep.
That's who she likes to work with. And those side hustles can be very lucrative over time. As you say, replaced your regular 9 to 5 income, and you had a really decent job.
Yes.
Like you said, you continued to get perks and raises and things. You were
Stock and
making a
yeah.
good revenue. Yeah. But now, describe the difference in getting up in the morning now versus back when you were just doing your 9 to 5.
Again, it comes back to that, like falling in love with that real estate business, and every day to me is the same. Like, and I go back to this is I built that real estate business on nights and weekends, right? That was time that I could have been watching TV. I could have been relaxing after working very hard. But what I found was, because I loved it, I had absolutely no problem going out and doing that.
Yeah.
Right. And now that I
The
do that,
energy was there.
it was there. Absolutely. That's exactly right. Good way to say it. And that's what I have every day now. Right. And
Yeah.
it's a completely different mindset. And it's almost that utopian mindset that people think that is just too good to be true. And I'm living proof that it's not. Right.
Yeah.
The challenge, I will say, is finding what your purpose or what you're
Yes.
passionate about is. And that is a
Yes.
real struggle.
That
But that's
can
also why
be.
I believe in side hustles, because you can test the
Yeah.
waters out in those and see if that
Exactly.
feeds that.
Yeah. Yeah. A few years ago, I created an online course to help people figure out what that purpose and passion is. So I have a free course that people can take to help them narrow that down
Well, I
and
hope
going
everyone's
through a
listening to that, because that
process.
is
Yeah.
needed. Absolutely. You should
Yeah.
absolutely go take that course. I will tell
Be
you.
happy to share that link with folks if they'd like to go take that and offer it to them for free, just to figure that out, because it's so important that we be passionate about
Definitely.
what we're doing.
Yep.
And your business will be much more successful if you are passionate about it, as opposed to just going through the motions of getting up and running a business.
Correct. And I wouldn't exclude any age group from that, right? Meaning, I don't care if
Yeah.
you're 30, if you're 40, if you're 50, if you haven't figured that out yet, don't
Yeah.
stop looking for it,
Yeah.
right? I started my real estate business when I was in my mid 30s, and here I am early 40s, and now I've kind of gone into this new realm of coaching, right? So the
Right.
point is, continue to explore and go where you think that you're passionate about, and
Absolutely.
it gets easier.
I had an interview with someone the other day who is in her 80s and just starting her coaching career.
I love that. I love that
Yeah,
in
it's
those stories.
awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and she says, I don't plan on retiring.
Exactly. That's fantastic. In her 80s. Unbelievable. God
In her
bless her.
80s,
Yep.
yeah. So it's never too late. And there, and we'll come back to collaboration in just a second here, folks. But um, I think that we see a lot more of seniors right now starting those side hustles, starting new businesses, starting, doing things that 10, 20 years ago, they would have been retired, just playing or sitting in that rocking chair or whatever it is that they wanted, that was their dream of retirement. And now we're seeing, with loss of 401ks and other situations, in the whole last 2 years, we're seeing people needing to work beyond that, needing to continue on.
Yeah, that's another great point too, because it's something that my real estate business and journey has taught me, which is the power of multiple income streams and passive income.
Yes.
I think often I hear this from a lot of people is people will go to a job that they're not necessarily passionate about just to try to fund a retirement for 20, 30 years from now. And what I've learned is there are so many opportunities to invest today in stuff that can pay you passive income for
Yes.
today and give you
Yes.
additional streams of income. And that was a journey that I went on as I started investing in real estate. And the nice part about that is it takes the pressure off of those end of year performance reviews at your job, right? If you have
Yeah.
multiple streams of income paying you X amount, that could take the pressure off of
You have
worrying if you're going to get a
choices.
3 or 4% increase every year, right?
Right. Right. You have choices.
Definitely.
Absolutely true. So let's kind of shift a bit here, and talk a little bit more about collaborations and how collaboration has been a factor in your growth. I know when we talked earlier, one of the things that you said is that you still are in touch with a lot of those people that you worked with in your corporate job in your 9 to 5. That's a basis for some collaborations, correct?
Absolutely, very much so. And I think when I get into this discussion of collaborations, it always takes me to I'm a big believer in who you surround yourself with, right? And
Yeah.
wanting to be in the room of the people that you want to be, right? If you are or
Right.
if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I
Yep.
truly believe that.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so true.
Right. And what I have found for myself is when I've put myself in the room of people that are X steps ahead of me or that much further down in my journey,
Right.
I get better at what I'm doing. And I'm a big believer in that. And that's something since I walked away from med devices that I've worked very hard to make sure that I'm in that room. And it's funny, I'll use passive income as an example, right? Outside of my couple real estate properties, when I walked away from my medical device job, I had zero other passive income streams. I'm sorry. And I surrounded myself since I've left with people that is their mission. And I now have 8 passive income streams. So
Yeah,
to
that's great
me,
collaboration.
it is right. And I'm confident that would not have happened had I not put myself in that room.
Yeah,
And I think that
exactly.
that's what you have to do to get yourself to where you want to be. And all that comes from
Agreed.
collaboration.
Yeah, it does. And I really enjoy the fact that you brought up the part about not being the smartest person in the room. You want to get into those rooms where you just want to be on the fly on the wall
Yes.
in the presence of those people because they're doing such great things and they have knowledge that you don't have yet. And I remember my first in my own having my own business, but my first experience of that, I had attended Russell Brunson's um, event in Las Vegas back in 2015, I guess it was, and signed up for his mastermind
Okay.
and thinking I'm pretty smart stuff, right? And I walked into that room, my business partner and I, and it didn't take us long to figure out we were definitely not the smartest people in the room.
I can imagine.
And we had
Absolutely.
so much to learn from the people that were in there. And
Oh,
so it
very
was,
much
yeah,
so. I'll tell you
yeah,
that, and the other piece, byproduct of that is get comfortable being uncomfortable because that is
yes,
where growth lives,
yes,
right? If you're
yes,
not getting uncomfortable, you're
exactly.
not growing. And
You're not
similar
growing.
story.
Yeah.
I joined John Maxwell's leadership program and got
There you go.
certified in August. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I went down to their IMC event to get certified. And to be in that room of people who have accomplished that much, it's very
Yeah.
humbling, but it also,
Yes.
you learn so much in such a short amount of time.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's a pressure cooker for learning for sure.
No
And
question. And I was
and that
uncomfortable. I'll be honest
opportunity.
with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was too. We went we went back to the room and went, you know, we met in one of our rooms to chat about our strategy for the next day when we had a presentation, and we both said, we're way off course on this presentation. We got to start all over again. And,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was the
yeah,
same
there
way.
was a lot of discomfort.
Yeah, exactly. And you learn so much, and it's
Yeah.
inspiring too,
Yeah.
of watching these people. Because the other thing that it's by being uncomfortable there, it shows you anything's possible, right? Because
Absolutely.
those are people that were in your shoes X amount of years ago that have now put
Yeah.
themselves in a different position. So you
Yeah.
don't have to recreate the wheel. You can literally sit there and learn from these people who have
Yes.
already done it.
And some of these folks in the room were 20-year-old millionaires,
Yes.
20-year-olds who'd already made a fortune in YouTube
Yeah.
or some other form, and have gone on to continue to just grow their business and their following and all. And so yeah, so collaboration. I want you to share with us a little bit more, if you would, about how you've used collaboration to create those passive revenue streams. I think there's an element there that it would really be beneficial for folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and a lot of these have come from my the opportunity I've had in managing the Keller Williams office that I
Okay.
manage, and it's again prior to me starting that, I didn't even know that they existed. So what I found was once I started to get further in my journey of real estate, and started to network more and talk to more of the people in my office that were already accomplishing this. One is recognizing the opportunity, and then two is figuring out what do I have to do to put myself in the position to acquire these opportunities, right? And for me, what I realized was during that time, if I took over and managed the office that I'm a part of now, more of these opportunities would open up, and they opened up because I had to drive these opportunities within the agents that were already doing it in my office.
Okay.
So again, I think it goes back to making sure that you're putting yourself in the scenarios where the opportunity exists,
Yep.
talking to the people that are already there, and then figuring out how do you work and collaborate to put yourself in a position where you're invited to then invest in these opportunities, right? Because it's also different than just going into a massive real estate syndication or something where you don't know anybody, right? So to
Right.
your point, if you're going in there, there's zero collaboration. All you're doing is writing a check. I
Yeah.
like to be involved and collaborate with the people that I know and trust
Right.
because we're all in it together. And now I know I'm in the weeds of what's going on, so I can better protect those investments as well, right?
Very good.
Because those exist. You could go and write a check tomorrow to a real estate syndication, but there's zero collaboration, and you might not know any of the people involved in it.
Right.
So I'm a big believer in making sure that you're investing in things where you know who you're investing with, and you have a position within them to at least pick up the phone if things are difficult or you need questions answered.
That know and trust factor is so important in many aspects, but especially I would think in the collaboration field.
Oh, very, very much so, right? I want I want to do it in areas that I'm comfortable that I know. You won't see me, right, invest in a completely different state that I don't know, that I
Right.
don't know the people. I can't stress that enough that the investments that I have now passively
Hmm.
are because I know the folks that are involved in it and I get to collaborate with them on a daily basis.
Right. Right. Very good. So in addition to know and trust, what what should people be looking for in those passive revenue streams and those collaborative opportunities to create those? What should they be looking for?
I think a big piece of it goes back to what we kind of kicked off with too, is just your purpose or your passion.
Mm,
I don't know that I would invest in areas that I don't have an interest or that I don't feel strongly about, right?
right.
Like for instance, this is somebody brought up a new company to me in the tech world. I'm not a tech guy. Like I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Now again, the other side to that is knowing and trusting, right? If that was somebody that I've built other businesses with or that I collaborate with on a daily basis and this is their venture,
Right.
By knowing and trusting that might be an opportunity. But outside of that, I got to stay in my wheelhouse because all of these things do require some level of interest in knowing how to get into them. And if you're not
Right.
passionate about it, then you could find yourself investing in areas that you miss something because you didn't
Right.
take the time to do your due diligence as you should have.
That was going to be my next question. What kind of research should they be doing?
I think the research is again, this is where it gets easier when you're investing in areas with people that you know and trust and something that you're passionate about. The research is simple because it's something that you're doing every day anyway, right? For example, one of the investments I have with the passive income streams is ownership shares in a title company. Well, that's a
Okay.
title company that all the agents in my office use. It's a title company that I use, right? So to me, I'm using them on a weekly basis anyway. I now just have a financial interest in them, right?
Right.
Versus a
Right.
completely different thing that I'm not using on a daily basis or my office isn't using. So I don't know how to get involved with it.
Right.
If that
Yes.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that I really like that example because obviously that is a critical element or component of your business realm of real
Exactly
estate.
right. Yep. Yep.
And so it's not an unknown entity. It's not disconnected from you in any way. It's yeah, that's a perfect example.
And you know what good looks like, right? So to
Yeah,
me, if they were missing the boat, then I wouldn't be as apt to go and invest in it, right?
right,
That's the benefit of being part of something that you have a day-to-day interaction with.
right, right. Very good. What are what would you say are some of the rules of etiquette around collaborating? Any thoughts on that? Do's and don'ts,
Do's and don'ts. I mean,
aside
it's
from what we've already
I was
discussed.
going to say it's grounded in the trust, but this is something we talked
Absolutely.
about a couple of weeks ago as well. Is making sure that it's two sided and that you're approaching it with kindness. You've heard me use the word before, kindness before, because I think a lot of times, especially when you're talking about financial interest, things can get intense.
Yes.
Um, you have to make sure that one, you're bringing something to the table, and two, when somebody else is having a challenge with it, that you can have an open discussion. So transparency is a component of that, but just being kind, right? Especially if you're all trying to accomplish the same goal. It's so frustrating to see people that butt heads when we're on the same journey, right?
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
differences of opinions makes you better. But if you can't respectfully have differences of opinions and be kind as it relates to that, I think it's a real struggle. And you
Yeah.
see that a lot, quite honestly, right?
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Especially when you put that financial component behind it,
Yep. Yep.
right? So there's a couple things there, right? The transparency, but I think that kindness always goes a long way, and respecting people.
So in terms of that, how important is personality match when you're collaborating?
It's very important, or at least recognizing the differences of it, right? Because
Right.
I think diversity is fantastic and is needed,
Right.
even as it relates to personalities, right? And that could be a good thing, right? If
Right.
if especially if it's in a sales type capacity and you're not that salesperson, well, bring that personality in that is gonna be the bulldog that you
Exactly.
need them to be. But I think the biggest piece as it relates to that is just recognizing it and realizing that we're on the same journey.
Right. And then the next step is values, right?
Very much so.
You want to
Absolutely.
make sure that you're on the same page value in terms of values.
And that's important, right? You have to make sure that you're in the room with the people that you do have like-minded values,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
that's a quick
Because
way
you could
to
get shiny new
have a
object syndrome.
separation. Yeah.
Correct, right? And I was
Yeah.
gonna say you get that shiny new object where it sounds like it could be fantastic, but if it doesn't sit well with you, then you probably shouldn't go down that road.
Yeah. Yeah. How can people um how can they ascertain that they do share like values? What kinds of things is it just having those conversations and looking for those values? Is there something beyond that that they can do? Any kind of research or you know uh, what would you suggest?
I
that
think
people
there
do
is,
to
especially in today's day
confirm
and age.
values?
Yeah, I think there's research you can do. Everybody, most people have one form of social media or another that can
Right.
tell a lot about a person. But I think if I've learned anything as it relates to that, and I'm very guilty of this, is not assessing too quickly. And time is is actually an ally as it relates to this, right? The more time
Yes.
you spend with somebody, the more you're going to learn their true values.
Yes.
Right. And the flip side is not true, right? So if you might think you understand somebody that you just met,
Yeah.
and that person could be completely different 6 months later than what you thought.
Yeah.
So I do think, especially as it relates to investments and building businesses together and collaborating on that side, time is your ally, and spend some time getting
Yeah.
to know that person to see who they truly are. Not that they're
Agree.
better or worse, but as it
Right.
relates to those values, and do they share
Yeah.
similar values?
When I had my staffing firm, we used a personality profile that was over 90% predictive of success on the job.
Yep.
And so we would do that as part of our process of qualifying those employees. And I would sit down with the supervisor or the employer with my recommendation for the best hire for them and say, but here are the hiccups. Here's what the negatives are. Here are the positives. Here are the negatives. But you probably aren't going to see these hiccups for about the first 90 days because everybody's on their best behavior that
Yes.
first 90 days.
Correct.
And they would come back 90 days later and say, "You're right."
Yep.
Now we see it.
Exactly.
But they went into it armed with that information and could be proactive about it and create an environment where those things that were less than ideal for the position would still work.
That's a perfect
So,
example. And Keller Williams is big on personality assessments as well. We have a KPA, a personality assessment, and like you said, 90%, right? Nothing is there's no better indicator than time and spending time in the room with somebody
yes,
for an extended amount of time. Though I'm
yes,
a big believer in those assessments, and they can directionally point you. But what happens when
yeah,
it's that person falls in that 10%?
yeah,
Positively or negatively too, right?
yeah,
Because I
yeah,
wouldn't necessarily not want to put somebody in just because they didn't check all of the indicators that they needed to, because they could
right.
surprise you,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And
Yep.
that's where time helps.
Time helps. It does indeed. Awesome. Any other just major thoughts that you have about collaboration, Nick, and suggestions for people on that journey?
No, I would just summarize it between all of that, right? Be passionate, be respectful, be transparent, especially as it relates to collaborating in the same business. Recognizing the goals that you're on, and that you're on the same team. Because if you can
Yeah,
do that and recognize that, then I think you can break down all those other barriers.
yeah. And I would add one last thing, have integrity in all that you do.
Perfectly said. Totally
Yeah,
agree. Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Can never have enough of
Fantastic.
that.
Yeah, yeah. It's very, very important.
Very much so.
Awesome. Well, Nick, this has been fun to pick your brain on collaboration and have you share a bit about your journey here. And hopefully, folks have taken some good takeaways from this that ways that they can increase the collaborations in their lives. Look at the benefits, folks. Not only the relationships that you get, these passive streams of income. Building your business through collaborating. There's so many advantages of collaboration. So, Nick, can you give folks your contact information so if they'd like to reach out to you, they can do so?
Absolutely. Best spot to find me is on LinkedIn, Nick Ricco, Ricco. And I have to share one other thing that you just triggered a thought in my head on the collaboration piece. And I think about getting to meet you, Regina, and even being here right now. And the reality is, this goes back to getting comfortable being uncomfortable, where I started posting on LinkedIn and making more and more contacts on LinkedIn. And by doing that, it opens up more doors,
Yeah,
right? You're
absolutely.
not going to open up those doors by just by staying closed off and not getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
By doing that, that's what brought me here today. And I think that that's what's so important, to be able to put yourself out there and get comfortable being uncomfortable.
yeah. And a lot of folks may say, oh, well, I'm an introvert. That's really hard for me. Folks, I'm 50-50 introvert extrovert. I love
Likewise.
doing the dog and pony show, but when it's over with, I want to go back to my room. Leave me alone. Let me,
Likewise. Exactly right.
so it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. You can do this. You can reach out and connect with people. Just do it again from that place of integrity. Do it in a way that is not, I mean, I get LinkedIn requests every day. I got one yesterday. It's like, can you send me clients for this? Well,
Yeah.
I don't know you from Adam.
Yep.
No, I can't send clients to you.
Exactly
That's
right.
not going
Be
to happen.
genuine, authentic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be genuine, be authentic, build a relationship, seek to serve them first. And then that law of reciprocity kicks in and they want to give back. They want to help you.
That's exactly right. Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. So do it with integrity, folks. You can do this and
Absolutely.
just have fun with it and see how many connections you can make, how many people you can directly connect with and relate to and develop a relationship that can be a long-term beneficial relationship. In everything I do, I'm always looking for a win-win-win. Needs to be a win for me, a win for you, and a win for our clients.
Exactly right.
And if we can always look for that win-win-win opportunity, I think we're going in the right direction. And if we seek to serve first, we're going to be able to attract more into our own lives.
I would leave that there. I can't. Well said, Regina. Perfectly said. Totally agree.
Awesome. Thank you. Nick, let's see. So you said on LinkedIn and it's Nick Ricco on LinkedIn?
Yes,
Yeah.
RICCO. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. So thanks again, Nick. This has been fun. Thank you, folks, for joining us today. And I will put the link in the comments for that class. So watch for that later. And a class on or course on helping you figure out what your purpose and passion is. So
Awesome.
awesome.
Thanks,
Thanks
Regina.
again. See you later, folks. See you next time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.